They don't care. They don't care. Who do I mean? The person that you are divorcing will declare war on you. If you are divorcing a high conflict person, a narcissist, a sociopath, somebody with a borderline personality disorder, that's just the way they roll. And no amount of your wishing, hoping, praying, wanting to collaborate will change how they operate. So in this video, I want you to hear exactly what's going to happen. Why? Well, I've seen it hundreds of times with all of my clients. I personally experienced it, and I've read thousands of letters over the past 12 years as I've been in this industry. And I've heard over and over words like, he declared war on me. This feels like a war. I feel like I'm in the trenches. Over and over and over. It is a reality. Because when you're dealing with somebody that has a borderline personality disorder or is narcissist or sociopathic or psychopathic, when you start to talk about divorce, if they bring up divorce, if they leave you, you leave them, whatever it is, there is an injury for them that is so deep, and they can't handle that injury. Normal, healthy people, they grieve, they feel bad, they want to do things and collaborate so that nobody gets terribly hurt and the kids are okay, but that is not how they roll. They don't roll that way. And no matter how much you want to wish or pray or talk collaboration, is not going to change what is fundamentally part of who they are. No different than you cannot change your height. You can put on heels, you can stoop down and crouch low, but the bottom line, your height is your height. And that's just the way it is. And that's how they are. Their personality dictates this. I've talked to so many mental health professionals who have agreed with me on this particular topic. However, there are a group of people in the divorce space that will tell you, a person with a borderline personality disorder, they hurt, so they hurt others. The truth is they don't. They're not hurting. They're hurting only in the injury that they're sustaining because you've decided you want a divorce, or they've told you they want a divorce, but you're not playing the game their way. So it's that injury that will propel them to behave the way they do towards you, not because they love you or care about you or care about the kids. Not going to happen. Now, you may notice my background is real stark. You may be asking, why is she in a stark background? Because I don't want any distractions. I want you to hear what I'm saying today. This was intentional. I don't want you to have any focus except on what I'm going to say, because this is really important. I have gotten into the habit of asking my clients consistently, what is the one thing that has happened that you didn't think would? Across the board was, I didn't realize how much my spouse didn't care, or my spouse declared war on me. What did I do? Or I didn't deserve any of this. What is happening? Well, very simple. Exactly what I'm talking about. Because the minute that divorce is discussed with a high conflict person, somebody with a borderline personality disorder, narcissism, whatever you want to call it, I don't really care. This oppositional person, they're going to operate a certain way. And the courts can't change them. 80% of all the high conflict divorces have some sort of post-divorce abuse. It just is that way. This is how they operate. Your best plan of action is to understand that. Now, I had a hard time with this. I was in the space. I worked with people every day, and I just couldn't understand, how could somebody just be so awful to their spouse? Somebody that they were married to, who they had children with, who they vowed to be forever. And we know forever, well, that doesn't always happen. But how could they be this way? So what I did is I reached out to one of the therapists that I know and said, can you refer me to do a study and to talk with some of your narcissistic clients? And after she cracked up laughing, her answer was, narcissists don't come to me unless, now they do go to therapists under two conditions. Number one, they want to talk how badly their spouse is and set that spouse up, or they want to figure out how to finagle a particular scenario so that they're not trapped. They're not going for self-reflection or to figure out what they've done wrong. Forget about it. So what she said was, well, I actually know a few people, but there are people who've been damaged by these folks. I could give you a whole list of them. I said, well, not necessarily. We don't want to go there. But we did narrow it down to 4 people. And I ended up interviewing 4 people during the pandemic. And why during that time? Well, it was easier. My speaking engagements were kind of off the table. I was doing a lot of coaching. But more importantly, I wanted to find out what it was that drove these individuals to behave the way they did. And this way, I could convey it to my clients. So I interviewed 4 men, different ages, different demographics, different regions. And what I found is I was basically talking to the same person, just a different name, different clothing. But what compelled me the most was a conversation I had with a man who was nearing 70, who had had a myriad of relationships. He boasted, number 1, that he was a narcissist, and number 2, he couldn't wait to talk to me. So we scheduled the appointment to sit on his porch. Remember, it's 2021, we're still wearing masks. And he was thrilled to tell me how he had been with 100 women in his lifetime. 100, isn't that amazing? Never been married. I asked him about any long-term relationships, and he said he had had 4, a 2-year, a 2-year, a 4-year, and an 11-year. Okay, none of them matriculated into marriage. And interesting, he told me he could not recall the name of the woman from the 4-year relationship. I was like, wow, I would remember the name of a guy who I dated 4 times, but 4 years? Okay, no judgment. But I did zero in on the 11-year relationship, and I asked him what happened. And here's how it went. He met the woman when she was 35 and he was 37. She claimed she wanted to get married and have children as her biological clock was ticking away. Now, women, we all know we have biological clocks, but those women, you women now of childbearing years, you can freeze your eggs. You're not reliant on a man, so you can freeze your eggs now, 25, and have a baby at 87 if that's what you want. But it was not like that then. Then you either had to find a partner or you found somebody and you either got a sperm donor or you met a man, and that embryo, frozen embryo, had a connection to another human being beside you. Now, it's just your eggs you can freeze. But I digress. I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of why she was so trapped. So I said to him, well, tell me about her. And of course he said, when they met, she was 35, he was 37, she wanted a baby, she wanted a family. And I said, great, then why didn't that happen? He goes, well, I didn't want that. So I said to him, wait a minute, you didn't want that? Did you say anything to her? He goes, no, why should I? She was gorgeous, she was smart, I really loved her, she was kind of, and he said, babe, that I wanted to be with. And I said, yeah, but you lied to her. And he said, okay. Well, what he did is he created a relationship, and by the time she was nearing like 39 or 40, he started talking about a house, and then, time moved on, and before she knew it, she was 45, she went to a new doctor. They had moved to a different part of town, and the doctor said, listen, if you want a child that is genetically connected to you, it's going to be almost impossible. We don't even do in vitro fertilization with women your age using their own eggs. Ouch. She didn't expect that. Now, any of you who are making judgments, don't make judgments, okay? Because you know how it is to be charmed by these characters. And she was charmed. But now she had this sobering news. And what was so heartbreaking about hearing this story is he's telling it with such glee. And I said to him, don't you feel bad? And his answer was, no, why should I? She could leave at any time. Okay, we all have heard that story before. I've heard many of these stories where men have actually frittered away a woman's fertility years with promises, future faking of things that are going to happen that they know are never going to happen, or he thinks it's going to happen for a scintilla of a second in his mind, just enough to convince him it's okay to send her down the wrong path. And that's what happened with this woman. And what I heard with him wasn't so much the story, it was his lack of empathy, his inability to take any responsibility for this. He had no accountability whatsoever. Sympathy, marginally. And when I say marginally, I had to really dig for it, and I still couldn't find it. That is what you are encountering. Now, maybe not to that extreme, or maybe. But when somebody doesn't care, they just don't care. And if you're dealing with somebody who has this kind of personality, or if you want to call it a personality disorder, I usually say personality, and they're narcissistic or sociopathic or whatever it is, this is what you're going to encounter in some way, shape, or form during this divorce journey. So what is my advice to you? As I said earlier on, I'm going to give you a couple really strong suggestions, and there is no wiggle room around that. Number one, you have to put yourself first. And I know you have kids and a job and everything else, but without you putting yourself first, none of those things matter. They don't. Your kids do not do well if you're a train wreck. So you have to put yourself first, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health. And we talk about that in other videos, and we will talk about that in future videos. But do that first. You know that old adage when you're on a plane and they say, put your mask on before your kids? It's so true, and it's true in this scenario. Number two, start to look at your finances. We talk a lot about that. Get yourself situated, because believe me, this is not going to go well. Because remember, I said he doesn't care. They don't care. Your well-being, the children's well-being doesn't matter anymore. He's out for himself. She's out for himself. That's the way it works. Please understand that. And number three, be as calm and collective and cool with the kids as you possibly can be. Because will this person drag them in? Absolutely. They have no qualms whatsoever bringing the kids into the mix. Do they do it every time? Just about. There has been a rare occasion. In fact, let me think if I can think of one. Okay, I can't. Where I've had a high conflict divorce appear before me, where there are children and the high conflict person doesn't drag them in. I can't think of a time. Now, it goes from mild to very extreme. Mild meaning they badmouth the other parent, terribly meaning you, the targeted parent. They badmouth the parent. They're late picking up the kids, dropping them off, that kind of stuff. All the way to trying to get the kid out of the country to wherever they want to take this kid. So I've seen both extremes. You don't want to be anywhere in that. So just be as calm as you can with the kids. And do yourself a favor, click on the subscribe button below. This way you'll get all kinds of information and alerts when I jump back on YouTube, and some little freebies in there. All right, now, in the meanwhile, jump on the next video. A lot more from where this came from.